straight face. Presumably go and study a movie like Slumdog Millionaire with all its caricatured Hollywood hoax, Hindu jargon about faith, its Hindu villains oppressing poor little Muslim boys and describe it as enforcing Hinduness on us. Believe it or not, that is how blind academia is today to its most pernicious prejudice. This simply is Hinduphobia. Our goal in this book is to name it, expose it, and I love it the way he has described, and demolish it. Have it demolished. Don't show any tolerance. Don't show that, no, I am very large-hearted and I think you are also a little bit right and I think I may be a little bit right. No, I must have a courage to say you are completely wrong and I am completely right because I have a legacy and a heritage. So, when in this time, in this samsara, when anything Hindu is not in, this book will help us to show that I want to, with full commitment and with full confidence in my Hinduness, I want to convert the whole earth into Hinduness. I want that Hindus must move forward. Must move forward if we have to make this earth livable, happier, plural, democratic, tolerant, and knowledgeable. We have to spread the values of Hinduness all over the earth without any prejudice and without any offense to anyone. This is the time when I wish that we put our foot forward and revive. I don't like the word revive. I think Vamsee used the right word, resurgence. And we are seeing that everywhere on the globe. In spite of all the attacks, the kind of attacks, the hate attacks, the acidic attacks, Hindus are the most assaulted community in the world today. Have it realized, see it. From the entire South Asia is seeing elimination of the Hindus. And attacking Hindus is become a very, very acceptable and a fashionable attitude. So, but I am seeing a resurgence of Hindus, whether they are in Europe, whether they are in East Asia, whether they are in small hamlets in India. What my mentor, Raju Bhaiya, Professor Rajendra Singh, was the fourth Satsang Chalak of the RSA, used to say, use the word assertive Hindu. We want to assert our values without any inhibition, and I see a great rise of that Hindu all over. And if you don't, I mean, yes, everywhere I see that, and I congratulate Vamsee for bringing this book to us. We are very grateful to him, and there are many other things that we have to say. If we are rearmed with memory, we will never allow the kind of pernicious, hateful, and very prejudiced attacks on us and be tolerant about that. Just one small example of Tirumala. We should not be that spineless. You bring a Hindu to Tirumala, Balaji, and then videograph it and say that I am converting you. Your God here, this Tirumala, is a devil God. It's on record. And then I will take you to a better God, which is my God, Jesus Christ. I'm sure that Jesus Christ must be feeling very ashamed of that kind of a instrument of Vatican. And that thing can only be registered if we are armed with memory, we are armed with proper knowledge, and the knowledge has always been the instrument to resist the barbarians and spread our Hinduness all over. I think that should be again put to good use. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Vamsee and Westland, for having invited me. Ladies and gentlemen, gave me the opportunity to read the book. It's a delightfully well-written book. I enjoy reading it enormously. Excuse me. I recommend you read it. I recommend you recommend that it be read. Having said that, I want to say one or two words which will probably make you uncomfortable. You will disagree. Certainly most of you will disagree, because whenever I say this, I'm misunderstood. So I'm liable to be misunderstood here also. But before that, a small anecdote in the nature of a digression. Swami Vivekananda also wrote poetry. And there is a particular poem that he wrote. It's very difficult to understand why he wrote that poem. And it's called Kali the Mother. It's a very difficult poem to understand. Why he wrote Kali the Mother becomes clear only when Sister Nivedita wrote about that incident in a book on Swami Vivekananda. And the story is as follows. That there was a temple to the goddess Kali in Kashmir, and Swami Vivekananda happened to visit that, and he was deeply disturbed at the fact that this temple was in ruins, and he couldn't sleep at night. And he thought and wondered about what he could probably do to rehabilitate that temple. And according to Sister Nivedita, in his dreams, the goddess Kali appeared before Swami Vivekananda and said, "Who do you think you are? Why is your ego so important? Do you think the responsibility of protecting me devolves on you? Am I not capable of protecting myself?" And that's the reason I'm a little bit ambivalent when I read a book like this, despite all the good things I've said about the book, particularly the first half of the book. The first half of the book, Vamsee described the two halves of the book. The first half of the book is sort of defending. I am reacting to Wendy Doniger. I am reacting to Slumdog Millionaire. I am reacting to what New York Times has said. It's negative. I am rearming, for God's sake. Why? That's not what Hinduism is about. Do I not need to bother? What is Hinduism about? Hinduism to me is what Vamsee talks about in the second half of the book, which Tarun Vijay talked about in a slightly different context. When the rishis spoke about Hinduism, this is the old religion versus science controversy, that religion is faith and science is empiricism. Everything that the rishis wrote about was empirical. It is what they experienced. So Hinduism is about what is inside you. Hinduism is about the search within. Hinduism is not something external. As far as I'm concerned, that is the message that we need to propagate. That it is fundamentally empirical. It's the search that you are going to have for what is within you. What is the truth? And it's perfectly possible, because this is what the rishis also said. It's perfectly possible that your answer, when you look within, is not the same as my answer when I look within. So Hinduism is really about that process of looking inside. And that, I think, is what we need to communicate as the message of Hinduism. It is not rearming. Or if it is rearming, it is not rearming Hinduism. It is rearming the individual. It is about telling the individual what is important, which is what is inside. And I think it is that which had made Hinduism survive. It is that will make Hinduism prosper. And this is a very readable book. But I do hope that when Vamsee writes his subsequent book, that book will expand on what is the second part. It should be on what Vamsee has discovered inside him as Hinduism. That, I think, will be a much more constructive book. Thank you very much.
I congratulate, like Vivek said just now, for a very readable, well-argued book. But more than the author, I'd like to congratulate the publisher for daring to publish a book which says good things about Hindus. Let me divide what I have to say in two parts. First, I'll just briefly quote from his book, what is his thesis, so to speak. And then I will speak about what is my understanding, is how you can rearm a Hindu. With what? Rearm him with what? First of all, he says on page 3 the following. We belong to a moment in history when Hinduism is beginning to wake up. If not from a long slumber, then at least a long silence. And then he ends that paragraph with, what does it really mean to be a Hindu today? On page 27, he says, the challenge that Hinduism faces today comes not from governments and armies, but essentially the sphere of culture from two institutions, academia and media. I think these two things, in my opinion, sum up the book and sum up the dilemma or the difficulty that faces a person who wants to say I'm proudly and openly that I'm a Hindu. Now I come to the question as to what is a Hindu? And that means, what is the identity of an Hindu? First of all, I'd like to say that according to modern science, which is based on the theory of genetics and particularly the testing of DNA, almost 99% of the people living in India have the same DNA. It doesn't matter if you are North Indian, South Indian, East Indian, West Indian. Skin color doesn't matter because that's got to do with pigmentation. And that was dramatically proved by Michael Jackson when he went to a plastic surgeon and got his pigmentation removed. And he became a white man. But in terms of DNA, whether it's a Brahmin or a scheduled caste, North Indian, South Indian, East Indian, West Indian, or a Hindu or a Muslim or Christian, the DNA is more or less the same. That's now published research in the University of Houston, the Journal of Genetics of University of Cambridge, University of Mysore in India. And this shows that this whole theory which had created a duality in the mind of the Hindu, of India being a nation of two communities, the Aryans and the Dravidians. And the Dravidians ruled India first, and then the Aryans came through Khyber Pass, beat them and pushed them to the south. And a whole political movement was built on this concept of Dravidians. The name of a Dravidian, Dravida Munnetra Kazhagam, Dravida Munnetra Kazhagam, etc. This was actually fostered history, fostered by the British. And so, in terms of decolonizing your mind, the first thing is that this history must be jettisoned. And an identity that in this country we are all Hindus, or our ancestors were Hindus. Not necessarily all ancestors in the sense that father, mother, grandfather, grandmother, but the Hindu lineage is clear. And this testing, I have actually done it in an amateurish way when Raj Thackeray in Bombay was saying that the UP taxi driver was taking away the Marathi jobs. So I managed to get a sample of his hair from his hairdresser. and also got a taxi driver to donate a part of his hair, and got it tested in Hyderabad, and found that they had the same DNA. So either Raj Thackeray also came from UP, or there's no difference. So this is the first thing that you should be armed with. We didn't come from anywhere. We are indigenous to India. And that all these divisions, they have ossified over a period of centuries. There was never, Varna was never birth-based. If it was so, then Vishwamitra, who was born in a Kshatriya family, would never have become a Maharishi. Valmiki, who wrote the Ramayana, is popularly thought to have been born in a Dalit family. And Vedavyasa, who wrote the Mahabharata, his mother was a fisherwoman. Kalidasa was actually a Vanavasi, as they say, a man who lived in the forest cutting branches of trees. And there was never this supremacy of Brahmins which is being propagated over and over again, because the best example of there not being a supremacy is Ravana, who was a Brahmin. And Mr. Karunanidhi didn't know for a long time. He thought he was a Dravidian because he was from the king of Sri Lanka. But he was not from Sri Lanka. He was born near Delhi in a village there called Basrak. You can still go there to that village, and they have a board there that this is the home village of Ravana. And his wife Mandodari came from Meerut. It is basically after his going to Mansarovar and acquiring these powers from Lord Shiva that he saw which is the best place to conquer, and he found that Gober had beautified Sri Lanka, and that's how he went and conquered it. And he was killed by a Kshatriya. The Brahmins don't, revere Rama. They don't say that because